발표 너무 잘 들었고, 지난 이제 코로나 기간 동안 굉장히 많은 것들을 하신 것 같아서 그 장애예술의 현재를 그리고 또 미래를 이렇게 발표를 통해서 좀 확인을 할 수 있었습니다. 다만 오늘 자리는 그 다다페스트를 이제 처음 이렇게 소개하는 이제 한국에 처음 소개하는 그런 자리가 될 수도 있을 것 같아서 오늘 질문 중에는 이제 다다페스트의 현재와 미래뿐만이 아니라 과거에 대해서도 좀 질문이 있을 것 같아서 그 점을 좀 양해를 구하겠습니다. 그 발표 중에 그 제가 들었던 새로운 개념들이 있어서 좀 재밌었는데요. 이를테면 디지털 프로듀서나 기술 문해력 이런 단어들이 저는 귀에 들어왔습니다. 그 작은 질문을 하자면 디지털 프로듀서는 공학을 전공해야 되는지 좀 궁금합니다.
Yeah. So I've just finished up a PhD, um, which is a computer science PhD, looking at um, audience behavior data and using that to drive interactive online experiences.
한국의 많은 그 예술 기획자들이 기술 문해력 부분에서 어려움이 있는 것으로 알고 있는데 그 공학을 전공했다는 얘기를 들으니까 앞으로 또 무엇을 공부해야 될지를 이제 좀 알게 된 것 같아서 아주 좋습니다. 네. 그 한국에서도 그 공연에서 수어 통역사 위치가 굉장히 좀 중요한 이제 좀 화두가 되고 있는데요. 일반 관객들이 이제 잘 보이지 않는 곳에 있다가 이제 점점 더 더 잘 보이는 곳으로 이렇게 좀 이동하는 그런 과정을 거치는 중입니다. 그런데 그 발표 중에 어떤 AR 기술을 사용한 어떤 수어 통역 그 위치를 이렇게 좀 장애인 관객이 선택할 수 있고 장애인 예술가가 선택할 수 있도록 한 부분이 굉장히 인상적이었습니다.
Yeah, thanks. I think we are having similar discussions within the in performance and arts in the UK about where we place the access. I think similarly, traditionally, access would be available occasionally for disabled or neurodivergent or deaf audiences, or it would be kind of hidden on like a personal device. But there is much more access, captions, audio description, interpretation being built into the artwork so that it is present for all audiences. So audiences that don't consider themselves disabled also get to see the access and have to think more about uh, other disabled audience members and kind of consider that part of so many people's lives, even when kind of watching or engaging with art.
그 코로나에 대한 질문을 안 할 수 없을 것 같은데요. 그 보여주신 그 영상을 통해서도 좀 확인할 수 있었는데 코로나 이후 디지털 접근성을 좀 강화하고 있는 모습으로 좀 여겨집니다. 그 디지털 접근성이 장애 예술에 어떤 영향을 미치고 또 새로운 변화를 가지고 왔는지 그것에 대한 어떤 생각을 좀 들어보고 싶습니다.
So, in the UK during the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly in that kind of spring, summer of 2020, a lot of cultural organizations moved their practice online to continue to employ artists and to continue to create work for audiences. Um, Lots of those organizations have now unfortunately stopped doing online work or presenting it in quite as accessible or easy to access a way. Some of these are unfortunately some of the larger organizations in the UK. DaDa is not doing that. We are continuing a commitment to online and digital access because of the exact same reasons. Though, I mean, COVID-19 is still a pandemic, it is still widespread. There are still many audiences who can't go out to the theatre or to a museum or a gallery. And so it's important to keep this level of digital access up for people who are shielding or people who are living with people who are clinically vulnerable. But it's also because it sort of showed that we should have been doing this all along. we should have been live streaming. We should have been making work on demand and more accessible already. And the fact that we've been doing it now is great. So to stop doing it would be catastrophic.
공연 예술가 입장에서는 그 비대면 환경이 늘어날수록 대면이 좀 줄어들지 않을까 그런 좀 두려움이 있는데 그 다다 페스티벌은 이제 그런 것들을 좀 넘는 시도를 좀 하고 있는 것 같아서 좀 인상적이었습니다.
Yes, I understand the fear that online art and performance might take away from in person, but live performance has existed for thousands of years and has never been disrupted by radio, by television, by the initial existence of the internet, by anything. It still moves forwards, only getting more and more popular. I don't think that online digital theatre or digital performance will massively disrupt. I think all it does is provide culture for people who can't come in person, or provide culture for people who were really bending over backwards and putting lots of effort into coming in person who would otherwise rather not do that. All it is making culture and storytelling and art more accessible to wider audiences. I don't see a drawback, really.
그러면 코로나가 오히려 어떤 그 계기나 기회가 됐다는 것으로 또 이해를 할 수가 있겠네요.
Yes, I think in having to pause a lot of what we were doing, everyone got to reflect and figure out where they were at. In no longer being able to do the things that we loved, we got to really consider what those things were. And then when given the opportunity to, do we want to do them in whatever way we can? Do we want to do them online? Do we want to record things rather than just do live in front of an audience? We got to kind of take stock and see what it is that we actually care about. Like, do we care about performing in front of a live audience, or do we care about telling stories and making artwork and broadening the horizons of people, regardless of where they are and who they are? And for us at DaDa, it's the second one. And we can do that remotely and online just as much as we can do that in person.
그 다다 페스트 사업들에 대한 질문을 좀 드리려고 하는데요. 그 다다 인큐베이터, 그러니까 다다 펠로우는 어떻게 좀 선발이 되는지, 그 선발 과정에서 어떤 것들을 중요하게 생각하는지 이런 것들이 좀 궁금합니다.
For the first group of fellows, we were kind of running it as like a trial to see if it was useful to anybody and if people enjoyed being a part of it. We sort of invited emerging artists that we were aware of or had our attention drawn to apply and consider being a part of that program. When we run it again next year, we'll be doing an open call out for applications from any artists that identify as disabled, deaf, or neurodivergent within the northwest of the UK, and then we will select a wide range of participants from different art forms and creative backgrounds to make the next set of fellows in a much more open and publicly available way.
다다 아카데미에 대한 질문인데요. 그 홈페이지에 보면 굉장히 다양한 기관들이 같이 좀 협력하면서 그 프로그램을 좀 진행을 하더라고요. 그래서 그 기관들과 협력은 주로 어떻게 이루어지는지 그런 것들이 좀 궁금합니다.
Sure. We work with people in a variety of ways. Often we will co-produce projects with another organization where that organization lends its specialism in whatever art form that it focuses on, and we lend our organization skills and our understanding of access and the social model of disability so that that organization can work effectively and really well, I guess, with disabled, deaf, or neurodivergent participants, and then DaDa can broaden its horizons on the amount of high quality artistic output projects that it works with.
다다 아카데미 프로그램은 리버풀을 기반으로 이루어지는지 혹은 그 영국 전역을 대상으로 하는지 그런 것들이 좀 궁금합니다.
We focus our efforts in kind of Liverpool and the surrounding region, so the northwest region of the UK. That's where we for young people and young artists, no, yeah, for young people, and we tend to work within Liverpool and the surrounding kind of local area. And then for artists, if they're involved in the academy, they tend to be from the kind of region of the northwest, so Liverpool, Manchester, a few of the other cities in that area. So it's a bit broader for artists, but from a young people that we kind of support and work with, that's very much kind of, yeah, local to the Liverpool area.
다다페스트 스크래치 얘기를 하려고 하는데요. 그 아티스트에게 익숙한 공간을 투어시키고 관객에게 이제 거기를 이제 공유하는 방식으로 이렇게 좀 작품 발표를 한다는 점이 굉장히 인상적이었습니다. 뭐 그렇게 뭐 하게 된 어떤 배경 같은 게 있을까요?
That artwork, Anchorage by Letty McHugh. I know that the artist had like lots of artwork that sort of reflected the same sort of theme. So there was initially for DaDa Scratch, it was just the outside of the that tent that was available, and that it was embroidered with white thread of slogans that were relevant to the piece. And there was also sound playing from inside the tent, which were some of the artist's thoughts at various points in the day in reference to that sort of feeling of freedom or isolation that she felt living with a kind of chronic condition. And then as the piece has progressed and developed further, the tent has opened up and a representation of the artist's bedroom has existed inside it, potentially for the artist to inhabit and for people to come into her space while she is stuck in bed and to feel what that feels like, or to exist in that space by themselves and feel that space, feel the restrictions of it, but also feel the sort of the ways in which one can imagine and escape that space if trapped there by their own body.
그 다다페스트 스크래치에서 선보인 작품들에 대해서 이제 관객들의 반응이 좀 궁금하긴 하거든요. 뭐 관객들, 기획자들, 비평가들은 어떻게 그 작품들을 또 보고 있는지 그런 것들이 좀 궁금합니다.
Sure, yeah. Something that we're really proud of at DaDa is that we always have feedback after a lot of the work we put on, whether that's at Scratch or as part of the international festival. We have forms that audiences can fill out. And one of the questions in that form is, has engaging with the artwork that we've put on changed the way in which you view or consider people who are disabled, deaf, or neurodivergent? And almost everybody that fills out those forms agrees that it has, that by listening to these artists and watching them perform, listening to their stories, looking at the art that they present, helps broaden the horizons of the audience and for them to kind of consider the lived experience of disabled people more. That's almost universal, depending on whether it's critics or audiences or producers. And we know that audiences enjoy the work. They come back time and time again. We know that the artists end up finding producers and other venues to perform or exhibit their work at. And critically, artists end up growing and becoming more and more successful from a press, from an awards perspective. So it's a thing that we're really proud of, being able to kind of help support people who often need a bit more support because society doesn't give them the support that they require in that kind of level of inequality, and be able to get that at the beginning so that they can then develop and flourish just as well as anybody else could.
그 발표는 굉장히 재밌었는데 질문이 너무 딱딱해서 좀 미안합니다. 네. 왜냐하면 그 한국에서는 좀 상상할 수 없는 이야기들을 들어서 그게 좀 너무 궁금해서 이런 질문을 던지는 건데요. 네, 그 중에 하나로 그 다다 페스트는 이제 이사회로 운영이 되어 있고 이사회의 80% 이상이 장애인으로 구성되어 있다고 하는데, 그리고 또 축제를 만들어 가는 데 있어서도 이제 장애 당사자가 이제 있다고 하는데, 이제 한국에서는 조금 상상하기 좀 어려워서 이제 그 어떤 모습들이 좀 궁금하긴 합니다.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Our board is a vast majority of people who identify as disabled, deaf, or neurodivergent. We are a disability-led organization, and very few organizations in the UK are that, including some that are disability arts organizations. I think it's really important to have Yeah, disability arts organizations be led by disabled people, but specifically led by disabled people and not an individual person. I think disability is such a broad term that covers so many things that to be led by one disabled person means that you'll have a slightly more informed experience, but there's much more it can be informed by. There are so many different disabilities. There are so many things that society disables people because of, so many different ways to be deaf or neurodivergent, that you need to have as many people as possible with as many lived experiences, as many varied lived experiences as possible, inputting into the leadership of that organization in order to make sure that you are serving that local disabled community and making sure that you are helping as many people as you can, providing opportunities for as many people as you can, and really kind of achieving what it is that you're setting out to achieve.
장애뿐만 아니라 젠더, 인종, 성, 정체성 등 교차성과 문화 다양성에 대한 준비도 또 축제에서 잘 되어 있는 것 같은데요. 한국에서도 최근에 준비하는 과정에 있어서 어떤 어려움을 겪고 있어서 뭐 그런 것에 대한 어떤 뭐 조언이나 어떤 뭐 시행착오, 어떤 경험들을 좀 들려줄 수 있으면 좋겠습니다.
Absolutely, yeah. Advice is that the way in which we all work has been informed by people who previously for hundreds of years have not really cared about this, and that sometimes quite a fundamental shift in the way in which we approach making stuff is important in order to rightfully and justly include all of those people that deserve to be there, but for whatever systematic reason aren't there or don't feel welcome there, in spite of however open you might be. Tell stories about people, but not without people. Let people help you make decisions, but pay them, and don't take their time and their energy and their experience for free. They've struggled, and through that struggle have understood things, and were never looked after during that struggle. And so whatever you can do to support them while also learning from them is the best thing. But don't just learn from them, let them make decisions, let them be in charge, let them control things, whether that's their own artwork, whether that's their own community project, or whether that's an organization in its entirety. You can always try and learn as much as you can from someone's lived experience, but they will always know it better than you. They will always know more people who have been through that and will have a greater varied view of their life. You can't know their life better than them. So if you want to appeal to people who have a similar life, then you need them in the driving seat. You need them in charge or in control in some way.
마지막 질문인데요. 그 연극 예술계에서 이제 다다가 이제 갖고 있는 어떤 위상, 그리고 앞으로 이제 어떻게 이제 어떤 방향성을 가지고 갈 것인지 그런 게 좀 궁금한데요. 이 질문을 던지는 이유는 한국에서는 이제 장애예술과 비장애예술 이런 것들이 좀 나눠져 있어서 그 안에서 이를테면 장애예술 활동이 어떤 위치에 이제 스스로를 자리매김을 해야 되는지 좀 어려운 경우가 있습니다. 그래서 그런 것들을 좀 질문하고 싶습니다.
Yeah, I would say that though we don't like it, it's similar in the UK. Disability art is almost seen as its own separate thing. And people have assumptions based upon that. It's fundamentally the same artwork, it's the same quality, it's the same stories. Just because you're a disabled artist does not mean you have to make artwork about disability. You can make artwork about any story that any other artist can. You just also have this shared experience that you realize you want to communicate to people, so it finds its way in, or is the sole focus of your work, depending on who you are. Trajectory wise, there are a number of successful disability arts organizations in the UK. We very much count ourselves amongst them, and we want to try to grow and be more prevalent. We tend to focus in the northwest of the UK, so kind of in the Liverpool region and the surrounding cities like Manchester, but we are aiming to start assisting in a broader, more national level, and obviously we support artists nationally and internationally. So we think we can do that from the ground up, from grassroots, local and community projects, and then growing those projects until they become larger national scale things.
한국의 예술가들과 그리고 또 노리미츠인서울을 이렇게 보고 있을 또 관객들에게 좀 한마디 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다. 이른 아침부터 되게 많이 수고해주고 계셔서 너무 감사한데요. 네, 이 행사에 굉장히 많은 분들이 좀 관심을 갖고 지켜보고 있어서 네, 그분들께 한마디 해주시면 너무 좋겠습니다.
Yeah, as a result of lockdowns during the COVID pandemic, I think that a lot of society has been able to see what it can be like to be disabled by your surroundings, by your society, to not be able to live the life that you want fully. And we've been able to feel all the things that we miss and all the things that we want to do and haven't been able to. But that's been the experience for disabled people their whole lives, sometimes for years and years. I don't want us to ignore that feeling. I want us to be able to use that, understand that that's how people have always felt, realize that that's terrible, and want to try and do more to change that so fewer people have to feel like that for less of their lives.
그 10월에 있을 다다 페스티벌을 저도 이제 동료들에게 많이 추천을 하고 또 이제 발표해 주신 AR 수어 기술은 아마 한국의 많은 이제 공연예술 창작자들이 굉장히 관심을 갖고 볼 것 같아서 그것도 또 유심히 살펴보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다.
Awesome, lovely. Yeah, we're very happy to have anyone to the festival who wants to come, and thank you for having me. This has been really, really enjoyable.